Khabib at 29-0 has asserted himself and even called for it and said, listen, Dana, UFC, put me as the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I deserve it. I'm 29-0, never been beat, never lost more than one round in a fight. I deserve it. And the UFC obliges, and he is right now on the UFC's website the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. How much does that mean for the actual pound-for-pound fighter in the world statistics? It means nothing. The UFC creates the list, and so therefore they can just say who's on it and who's not. So okay, the UFC considers Khabib to be the number one pound-for-pound. Well, Jon Jones has issue with this, and Jon Jones has spoken out and said, wait a second, this guy's the pound-for-pound best in the world with 4 title defenses? Okay, he's 29-0. I respect that. That's fine. He's 29-0. But let's take a look. Let's pull the receipts. I got the receipts. Let's pull the receipts. So Jon Jones weighs in and says, "Listen, I've got how many title defenses does Jon Jones have? How many title defenses does this guy have? 11. I mean, listen, this is a tough argument to have because Jon Jones, I've long considered, is the best pound-for-pound fighter that has ever graced MMA. Ever. I don't care weight division. I don't care promotion. That guy, anybody that stepped into a fight and it's been considered a mixed martial arts bout, he is the best that's ever done it. And I say that because it's very hard to argue his numbers. It's very hard to argue his record. The only loss on Jon Jones' record, and it is a loss. I know people are like, oh, he didn't lose that fight. No, he didn't get beat by another man, but he beat himself. And we do this with everybody else that gets DQ'd. For whatever reason, we don't consider that to not be a loss on their record. We got to hold Jon to the same standard. He lost the fight against Matt Hamill because he went 12-6. It's the rule. It's a stupid rule. I understand it, but you can't expunge things just because you don't like the rule. It is what it is. It's been the rule. It's still the rule. You can't do it. So Jon Jones does have one loss on his record, but he lost to himself. Of course, Jon Jones is the only person that can beat Jon Jones. But he's had some very close fights. I mean, it was arguable about the Dominic Reyes fight that he possibly lost that fight. It was arguable that he possibly lost the Thiago Santos fight, although I thought he won that fight and lost the Reyes fight. It was arguable way back in the day that Alexander Gustafsson beat Jon Jones in their first 5-round fight, which again, I was on the side of Gus in that fight. I wasn't there. I didn't make those decisions, and I go by the decisions that were made, and Jon Jones is 26-1. The pound-for-pound ranking, it's such a malleable, subjective thing to talk about because no one really knows what it means. Like, some people consider it if people were all the same weight, who would win in a fight? If Khabib weighed the same as Jon Jones, who would win in a fight? I don't know. Did Khabib grow to be 6'4"? Is he around 6'2"? Like, how did he grow? Is he going to be able to take Jon down and hold him there willingly? I don't know. And then some people just say, listen, the pound-for-pound list basically is who's the best fighter on the planet based on their technique, their skill, record, overall damage taken, all these statistics that combine to make them the best fighter in their division, stacked up with the fact that they are also a champion. And in today's MMA, a double champion is really what it kind of takes to consider yourself the pound-for-pound best because you're moving around weight classes. You are actually moving from pound to pound. So there's that aspect of it too, which neither guy has ever done. Jon is now attempting to move up to heavyweight. I'm assuming he's dropped the strap at 205, so he's moving to heavyweight. So Jon would even be more, in my eyes, more highly considered for the pound for pound if he were to win that. If he wins the heavyweight title, he's the best fighter to ever live, ever. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's it. Because you not only then have Jon with 11 title defenses at 205. The people that Jon Jones beat speak for themselves. Now, not to knock Khabib's record at all. Khabib has some deadly wins on his records. He has some. But we're talking about Jon Jones, who beat champion after champion, starting with Ryan Bader, Brandon Vera, who are champions. In Ryan Bader's case, is a champion in another promotion, a 2-time champion in another promotion at the same time. Brandon Vera, a champion. Lyoto Machida, a champion. Quentin Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans, Daniel Cormier, a 2-division champion. I mean, how many more names do we have to talk about being champions that Jon Jones wiped flat? He beat the people when he was on the rise. Jon beat the legends of the game at that time currently. He beat the guys that were already to the top of the mountain when he was coming up. He beat them. Then he got to the top of the mountain, beat all his peers, all the guys the same age, had the same goal, started what Jon did, and he destroyed them all. Then he starts beating the guys that are coming up after him as he's been sitting on the top of the mountain. Then you have Khabib's side of things. Khabib, 29-0. Really only lost a round, barely, to Conor McGregor, even though, again, the Gleison Tebow fight, I don't know. 29-0, has decisively beaten everyone in his path. And he has champions on his resume, too. Dustin Poirier, a champion. Conor McGregor, a champion. Justin Gaethje, a champion. Rafael dos Anjos, a champion. On his resume, these are big-time wins. But the 4 title defenses, tough. Not necessarily his fault that he didn't get there quicker. That was more of a battle with the promotion. Khabib wasn't a big pay-per-view seller at the time. And then once he got the title, it was off to the races. The level of competition that he faced to get there, listen, 155 currently is one of the hardest, if not the hardest division in the UFC. But on the rise, you have him beating guys like Abel Trujillo, a good fighter, but again, not the level of the former champions that Jon had faced, even though some people argue that Jon had faced those former champions when they were out of their prime. I get that. You have wins over Pat Healy, Michael Johnson, Edson Barbosa, good win. He won the title off Ally Aquenta, again, at a guy that was ranked, I think, 13th at the time. He wasn't really a big-time ranked fighter at the time. And then Khabib obviously showed that he is the greatest at 155 by winning those next 3 to 4 fights. If we're talking about the greatest of all time, though, currently and ever, Jon Jones comes to mind right off the bat. And it's for the reasons that I said. So, where do we land on this? Where do I land on this? I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think you guys know at this point. As much as you get caught up in the recency bias of Khabib, even just calling to be the number 1 pound for pound and saying, I'm the best, this is why UFC make me the pound for pound greatest. Yes, he's 29-0. Yes, he's been mostly dominant throughout his career. He hasn't made a mistake as far as a loss or anything like that. And Jon has. He made one mistake. But when you're talking about Jon Jones, he goes through 3 generations of champions, of high-level talent, to basically cement himself at the top of the mountain and hold that title. Yes, he had to give up that title several times for out-of-the-cage issues, drug-related issues, possible PED issues, which is a huge stain on Jon Jones. That can't be denied. And if you're going to rule Jon Jones out for his PED usage, I'm with you. That's fine. You want to just automatically disqualify Jon Jones for the PEDs? That's fine. And for me going, well, let's just leave that out of it. It's kind of it's an easy cop out for me to say, well, let's just leave the PED stuff out of it. I know that's an easy cop out. I get that. But if you're going to ask me who in that cage at that moment was the best or is the best pound for pound fighter of all time, especially if Jon goes to heavyweight and wins that title, and that's a big if, but right now, currently, it's Jon Jones.